Hi, I'm Owen from Bite Size Irish Gaelic and welcome to episode number 12, Ivra Dóiag of the Bite Size Irish Gaelic podcast. Even if you're alone learning to speak Irish outside of Ireland, don't despair. Rest assured that there are thousands like you across the globe, all interested in tapping into Ireland's native culture. And for all about this podcast, go to www.bitesizeirishgaelic.com/podcast. And today I'm very happy to be joined by Audrey Nicol. Audrey, constatatu?
Tá mé go maigad.
Gohuntach. Cawil tú sa Dawan?
Tá mé in California, Santa Cruz, California.
Santa Cruz, Gahalan, and after me and being on green a tahnaf done chud is mó, nach mean. To give a bit of background, like Audrey is an avid, it has to be said, learner over the years and speaker of Irish. So we met back in the day on irishgaelictranslator.com, isn't that right, Audrey?
That's right, yeah. That was my one resource when I first started learning Irish was the internet, so.
Yeah, cool. And it took, I'd hazard a guess, 7 or 8 years before we met, and we were then lucky enough to meet. So you travelled to Ireland, we met in Ireland, and we've met in California once or twice?
A couple times, yeah.
So that's really cool. Audrey's done so much work on Bite Size Irish Gaelic over the years, and what I've loved about Audrey's approach is you're very methodological. Help me. And you take the perspective of somebody who's learned Irish from like zero. Like you taught yourself and you used resources and you used whatever you could get. You travelled to Ireland and you got to the fantastic point that you're at now. So I love that inspiration for people, right?
When I started learning, I didn't meet another person actually in the flesh that spoke Irish until I'd been studying for about 2 years. So I kind of had to come up with other ways to study.
Wow, yeah. So that's what we're going to cover a little in a few minutes on this episode is 5 ways to practice a little Irish every day. And if you're listening to this and thinking, I'm interested perhaps in Irish Gaelic, the Irish language, and I don't speak any of it, keep listening because that's not a barrier for the methods that we'll give you because it depends. Some things will introduce you maybe to using Irish. Other things are maybe presumably you have a couple of phrases already, but we'll get into that. Don't worry about it. So I wanted to read a couple of listener emails. So Matt emailed, he said, Díochait Owen, constatatu is maithliom de fud crealty a éisteacht. So is maithliom éisteacht le de fud crealty. So what he's saying is, I like listening to your podcasts. And he says, I have been listening to them on my way to work and after, and I find them very helpful and fun. So Matt, I'm glad we were able to accompany you on your commute. You recommended a website, fuckle.ie, fuckle.ie, and I'll put that in the show notes with the link so I won't spell it out. I never thanked you, so gura mahagut. I look forward to the next one. And that was Matt McCusker, and he said, Tommy Imachoni Canada, Armstrong, British Columbia, to be exact. So Matt, thanks a lot for being part of the Bite Size Irish Gaelic podcast. It's really nice to hear from you. Now, Kia emailed, and this is a bit of a long one, but it was a really nice one, so I wanted to share. So Kia said, I have to tell you, Owen, that I absolutely love the Bite Size Irish Gaelic podcast. I only started listening to it a couple of weeks ago, but I'm thoroughly hooked. Initially, I downloaded the show thinking it was short lessons that I could listen to at my desk while I work, but I was pleasantly surprised to find that that's not the case. And yeah, we do have to make it more clear that this is a discussion show. It's not for directly learning Irish, but it's more to give you the motivation to do so. So the content you provide is brilliant, and it was your enthusiasm for the language and the culture surrounding the language that prompted me to get serious about learning Irish again. Kia keeps going on, and I'll keep reading. Ireland has always been a fascination of mine, or an obsession if you were to ask my friends. When I was 6, my teacher allowed us to take home a book from her classroom at the end of the school year, a book we could keep. I chose one called The Fairy Thorn, and it was about an Irish family and the King of the Fairies. Over 20 years later, I still have that book, and I'm still just as infatuated with Ireland, its landscapes, its music, its stories, history, its art, anything and everything that's possible to know about Ireland. I want to learn about it. I've never set foot in Ireland, but there's something about it that feels like home. So I hope you get there. Your podcast, it not only feeds my hunger for knowledge about the language and the culture, but it seems to alleviate a twang of homesickness for a place I've never been to. Boy, that sounds mad, doesn't it?
I can relate to that totally. You know, when I first set foot in Ireland, it was like I was coming home to a place I'd never been.
Oh, well, and Liam in our last episode 11, he asked people, have you been home yet? Even if they've never been to Ireland. Audrey, did you kind of always feel that link to Ireland, or was it when you grew up a bit, or what's the story?
When I was very young, when I was about 13 years old, I fell head over heels in love with Irish traditional music. I was a volunteer at the World's Fair in my hometown, Spokane, Washington, in 1974, and was exposed to this traditional music, and it spoke to me. And when I learn something, I have to learn everything. So from music, it becomes history and folklore and language.
Yeah, it seems to be the path, doesn't it? For a lot of people, they get into the music first and they're led down the rabbit hole.
Exactly. Like I say, music's a gateway drug.
Stay off it, man.
I know, come over to the dark side.
So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So thanks to Kia. Anne was very nice to comment on episode 11. Anne Cartmel, she said, another enjoyable and informative podcast one. May I suggest, to hear how stunningly beautiful the Irish language can be, listen to the songs of Kathleen McKinns. I recently bought her album Kilvrida, and it's lovely. So, Anne, thanks a lot, and thanks for keeping in touch. It's always great to hear from you, and I'll put a link in the show notes. Audrey, I don't know what you think about this, but in episode 11, so actually Liam was in episode 10, not 11. In episode 11, there was a listener question about the origin of Top of the Morning to ya. So what I asked on the podcast for anybody to give a bit of background, because the question was whether people say it in Ireland, and the answer was no. And Debbie Mayo, who's always in touch as well, sent in an email and said, I just finished listening to your latest podcast with listener questions. I've always wondered about the term top of the morning here in the US, so I did a little research. Forgive me if you already know this. There was a movie made in 1949 with Bing Crosby called Top of the Morning, and the movie was set, and you guessed it, in Ireland. I found the movie on YouTube. Not sure if this is the only connection, but it may explain why folks outside of Ireland, especially in the US, think it's an Irish saying. So thanks, Deb. What do you think, Audrey?
I'd say that's probably what popularized it. I think probably originally it was a mistranslation of Mór na Maidhdeanadit, which is just basically a way of saying good morning. But if you try to translate it literally, it can come across as being, the greater part of the morning to you.
Oh, that would make a lot of sense. And is that a regional saying, or it's not something I would say?
I don't think it's something that's used much anymore. Perhaps it's literary. I'm not certain. It's not something I've ever heard in the wild, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I've come across it in literature and in songs. So.
Oh, interesting. So, hey, there you go. That explains a lot, I would say. It's a bit like my friend Gary from Mayo. We were studying together and he said, I have an awful hunger on me, which is a direct translation from the Irish language back in Mayo to Ocrasorum.
Yeah.
So, speaking of hunger, let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode and 5 ways to practice a little Irish. Let's get straight into it. Audrey, you came up with a list bigger than this in an ebook that we have.
Right.
And we picked out a couple which might be fun to cover. So let's just pick one off. And labels. It's really the idea of sticking labels on stuff, right?
On everything. I can't actually take credit for this one. I got this idea from a fellow IGTF alumnus of labeling everything. And what you do is you get yourself a package of sticky notes and a pencil, and you start labeling things around the house, your walls, your floors, your chairs, with the Irish word. Not the English translation, just the Irish word.
So no translations. Okay.
Exactly. What you want to be able to do is look at that label and see that word on that thing and connect that word with that thing. So, for example, I might have a label that says bala, wall. It's on the wall. I look at it and I say to myself, bala. I don't say wall, I just say bala, and then look at the wall, and it makes a connection between the word and the object.
Let's say you're a beginner and you don't even know how to pronounce these words. Like, would you suggest writing out phonetics as well, or is that going too far? What do you think?
I don't think it's ever really a good idea to write out phonetics, because I've seen too many people get dependent on them and never make the leap into pronouncing the words as written. I would say, if you're very much a beginner, start with very simple words. For example, bala, wall in Irish, is spelled pretty much the way it would be spelled if it were an English word, B-A-L-L-A. So start with that. If you're intimidated a little bit, and most of us are when we start with this language by the spelling, start with very simple words or with words that you know how to pronounce, and then work out from there. But I've seen too many people become so dependent on written phonetics that they never make the leap into actually reading the language as it's written. So I think it's kind of dangerous to do that in general.
So that's interesting, because we put up phonetics for, say, little phrases up on Facebook or on the blog or something. And it's difficult because you can't represent words of the Irish language directly in English language phonetics, right? So you give the phonetics to try to help, and then people, I don't blame them, but people get back to us and say, yeah, but what you wrote phonetically is completely different to something I heard on Radio na Gaeltachta or saw on YouTube or something. So yeah, it's a tricky one.
Right. Some of that could be due to, there are many dialects of English, as there are the 3 dialects in Irish. How I might represent something phonetically as an American living in California might be very different from how you would represent them as an Irish person living in Ireland, because we speak English differently. For example, I sing with Mary McLaughlin, and she uses phonetics a lot when teaching people to sing. And she tells people, look at the phonetics just as a guideline, but your actual point of reference should always be the spoken word. The point of the phonetics is just to get you, as we would say in the States, into the ballpark. It's really important, if you want to speak the language, to have some kind of access to the spoken word, whether it's through a program like Bite Size, where you can listen. There is also the issue of dialects in Ireland, and there are dialects in every language, but for example, I say my for good and you say ma. That's just something you kind of have to get used to in this language, I'm afraid.
Yeah. I'm going to link you up to our page on dialects in the show notes as well, because we have a lot to say about it, and I've said it before in the podcast. It's very sad that it's like a blocking question for people, and the number of emails I've gotten over the years of people who they're asking me basically how can they even start learning Irish for the fact that there are dialects. And I get the impression that hundreds or thousands of people along the way over the years have never tried. They've gotten as far as being interested in the language and just dropping off because they see it as an obstacle, and it's not a reason to not learn.
It's not. This is something that will probably make more sense to American and Canadian listeners than to people from other countries, and I apologize for that. But what I tell people is that it's like different forms of English. For example, here in the United States and in Canada also, we have a holiday that I call Thanksgiving. In November. It's in October in Canada. When I lived in North Carolina, they pronounced it Thanksgiving. This is English. It's the same language. If an English speaker can understand both Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving, then it's not that hard to get past the differences in Irish either. It's just something to be aware of. It's not something to be afraid of.
Excellent. Yeah, nice tip. Going back to the labels, Audrey, I'm just visualizing the room around me with labels like everywhere. Is that the objective?
Yep, that's the objective. Yeah, absolutely. You want to make Irish part of your life, right? And you can start small. Pick one room, the kitchen maybe, or the living room, and put labels up and incorporate those words into your day-to-day life. And then you can expand it. As you learn more, you can maybe put the definite article, the, with the word, or write a short sentence about the word as you get more adept with the language. But, have it right there where you have to confront it every day.
Excellent. So let's jump on to number 2 way to practice Irish is to sing a song. Now, Audrey, where would you start? Because, well, first of all, where would you find a song?
There's an amazing amount of resources out there. You can find songs on CDs, for example. You can find songs. There are several books out there, for example, Singing in Irish Gaelic, which has both the lyrics in Irish, the phonetics, the English, and a CD, so you can learn how to pronounce them. There's a wonderful program called Áran is Fiche, 21 Songs, that's put out by Fisfasa, that's basically Irish karaoke that you can run on your computer. It's actually a lot of fun. We use them occasionally at the Irish language weekends and such, and people have a lot of fun with them. You might hear a song, perhaps if you like Irish music, you might hear a song that you like and see if you can find on some of these programs, find that song and learn it. It's a wonderful way not only of getting the sound of the language in your mouth, but there's a tremendous bond between music and the brain. We tend to remember things that we've sung, which is why we use music when we're teaching children. We teach them to sing the alphabet song, for example, because that helps them remember it. Music can be an incredible tool for learning.
Excellent. So the suggestion here is you would print out the lyrics, right?
You could print out the lyrics, or you might have a book or a CD insert that has the lyrics in it.
Yeah.
And follow along, first listening, follow along with the singer. And then, pick something simple. The CD that I recommend for a lot of people who are learning to sing is Padre na Holahan's Storas a Storin. It's a CD that is mostly children's songs, but they come complete with a book that has the lyrics and the English translation. And she sings very, very clearly. The music is not overly arranged, so it's very easy to pick up her pronunciation.
I like that because part of the trouble with songs is the spoken word can kind of get transformed a bit, can't it? So it depends on the singer and the song and the style.
Right. The other one, I recommend to a lot of beginners is Mary McLaughlin Singing in Irish Gaelic, because again, you've got a CD where first she speaks the words slowly for you to repeat, and then she sings the song slowly with no accompaniment so that you can sing along with her, and that helps you learn the song in a very approachable way.
Yeah, that's really nice, and we'll put links where appropriate in the show notes. Yeah, Audrey, those are some fantastic suggestions you have. So we'll jump on to method number 3 with on the radio. So the obvious thing here is to listen to Radio na Gaeltachta. Would that be true?
Yeah, I love Radio na Gaeltacht. I think one of the most amazing things about living in the internet age is that I can listen to live streaming radio from Ireland anytime I want to. Radio na Gaeltacht is my number 1 recommendation because virtually everything on there is in Irish. The interviews, the music, the news, the weather. Some of the other radio stations, the commentary is in Irish, but the songs might be in English. Radio na Gaeltacht is about 90% Irish, and it's a good thing to just have playing as you go about your day, whether you're cleaning the house or working at your desk, just letting it wash over you and getting a feel for the rhythm of the language.
It's a bit of osmosis, isn't it? You're just kind of hearing it in the background, maybe.
Right, and you might not think you're learning anything because at first, it'll be blah, 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 and eventually you hear blah, blah, August, blah, 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 August, blah, and you'll be picking out words here or there, and you'll be thinking, I'm never going to be able to understand this. But the more you do it, your brain wants to make sense out of what it's hearing. And the more you do it, you'll find yourself picking up words here and there and that and you go, wow, hey, I recognize that. The other thing I suggest people do periodically is what I call active listening. Passive listening is when you're just sitting there letting it wash over you. It's an important step in learning. With active listening, you might pick a time period. Maybe, look at the website for the radio station and find out when they're broadcasting news and weather, so that you kind of have an idea of what's going to be talked about, and just see what you can pick out. See, maybe that one of the words in Irish for rain is bashta, and you maybe hear the presenter say something like washta. You just heard rain. You heard it with an inflection, but you heard it. You don't want to do that for long periods of time because it'll wear you out. But, maybe for 10 minutes. And if all you pick out is August, then that's fine. That's a word, But the more you do it, the better you'll get at it.
That's nice. And a suggestion you made before, Audrey, is to make a list of words that you do know, like August. And how would you use that in combination with listening to the radio? What's the suggestion?
Well, again, if you're going to do a focused listening or an active listening period of time, let's say you're going to be listening to the news, you might make a list of things that might be happening in the news. People, for example, I remember when I first started listening to Radio na Gaeltacht, I heard George Bush an awful lot. Now I hear Barack Obama an awful lot. But of words, for example, again, if you're going to listen to a weather broadcast, do you know the word for sun or for sunny? Grian and Grian were. For wind, gui. for rain, Bashak or Farhan. Make lists of these words that might come up in this broadcast and see if you can catch them as they fly by. That gives you something to shoot for.
But it can be frustrating, can't it?
It can, which is why you don't want to do it a lot. A little bit. 5 minutes, 10 minutes max, maybe. And then maybe leave it for a couple of weeks and just let it wash over you and then come back again, and try it again. And don't get discouraged, because I've been doing this for 10 years and I don't follow radio broadcasts necessarily 100% either. It's a good way to practice so that when you actually go to Ireland and you're talking to somebody, and you're not completely overwhelmed, because when people speak live, they don't speak like we do when we're teaching. They don't speak very slowly and clearly. They speak quickly and blur things together. And this practice with the radio, will pay off in spades when you actually go to Ireland and you're listening to people actually speaking Irish live.
Yeah, I can very much appreciate this, because I did French in secondary school, high school for about 5 years, and did another year in university, and then I moved to the south of France, Montpellier, and I get off the train in Montpellier and step on the tram, and I ask in French, is this the direction to the university? So the woman answered and she told me, and I did not understand a word. And she said it 3 times and I still didn't know what the answer was. So I stayed on, and thankfully it was the right direction. But God, so 6 years of formal education, and there was some, recordings, but they were a bit formal, I guess. So yeah, definitely, I can so much appreciate, what if I had just watched French TV or something, which I hadn't.
And that's a good point too. Another resource people have available to them is TG4, TG4. You can watch soap operas, you can watch news broadcasts, you can watch children's programming. Some of it's subtitled, some of it isn't. It's a wonderful resource. You just let it wash over. You'd be amazed how much you pick up after a year or two of doing that, how much easier it is to access the spoken language.
Yeah, excellent. And yeah, like you were saying, back in the day, as resources build up, and we're in an age where we can listen to Radio na Gaeltacht at any time. I remember well a time when Radio na Gaeltacht was sharing the same station, the same tuning station, the same frequency as a classical music station in English. So they kind of shared the times, and I guess later in the day it was the classical music in English. Then Radio na Gaeltacht eventually got their own frequency, and Lyric FM got its own frequency. I think it was Radio 3, but even that, we're lucky to have a radio station that goes around the clock, and they're good at broadcasting. And then you said TG Cahir, the TV. What a cool resource that people can watch online.
Oh, good Lord, I would pay for it. If they didn't make it available free of charge, I would pay for it. It's a wonderful resource.
And that just goes to show we can maybe take things for granted almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's lovely to have these resources, and we'll link you up to these resources. And I have to say, I said it to Radio na Gaeltacht on Twitter, that it's not easy to find how to listen to it live. Now, it does keep changing. They keep updating the site. But we did write about it before on Bite Size, about what steps you take to go to the Radio na Gaeltacht site, RTE site, and then find Radio na Gaeltacht. So they don't make it too easy, but we point you in the right direction.
Right.
So number 4, Audrey, is to read something. Now, this strikes me, and you said it, that it feels like I have to be quite an advanced learner of a language before I can start reading, but I think you kind of hint that that's not always the case. What do you think?
It really isn't the case, and I think it's a mistake to wait until you're an advanced learner to start reading, because it's such a tremendous resource. There are a variety of approaches you can take as a beginner. You can certainly go online, go to litriac.com or in Shop a Gaeilge, and buy books for children, or buy books that are written for adult learners that have the more difficult phrases defined and that have a glossary in the back. What I did when I started is I started with something that was just very familiar to me personally. In my case, it was the Psalms. In somebody else's case, it might be poetry or something that they know in English and reading it in Irish, because you start picking up words and you don't necessarily get the whole sense of it right away. But you say, okay, I say this in English, and here in Irish they said this. And you start to get a feel for the idiom. But probably the easiest way for an absolute beginner is to go to some of these websites and buy some of these books for children. Simple books, very simple language, books that maybe teach children how to tell time or teach them their colors. And you read that, and then you say the words aloud. And again, it makes that connection between the written word and your mouth. That brain connection is so important. And then when you're comfortable with that, maybe you read a little bit more complicated children's book or maybe nursery rhymes. You maybe get one of these books that has English on one side and Irish on the other. And you don't have to read a lot at first. It can be difficult at first. Keep it short. Try to read a paragraph. Or try in a children's book, try to read a page. And just see how much you can get out of it. One thing I recommend that everybody do, whether you're a beginner or an advanced speaker, is to read aloud periodically. That also helps in terms of learning to take the words as they come to you, which is what you do when you're actually conversing, rather than using a script. It's really good practice no matter what level you're at.
Yeah, excellent. This is some gold, Audrey. I hope the people listening are appreciating this. We'll put, again, some links to literature.com and such things in the show notes. I was going to ask you, we had a guest here, Matt Wallen, and he's a primary school teacher in Ireland. He was an elementary school teacher in the States, and he said that he moved to Ireland, and when he was moving, he wanted to teach just in primary school in Ireland, and his friend told him that, well, you have to be able to speak Irish to do that. And he said, what, like speak with an Irish accent? So he did not know. And I have to say, he's a really good speaker now, so fair play to him. And he got the job. His trick was school books. I don't know, have you tried this? Like, he started with school books for very young kids and just worked through them and worked up the years. And he found it a very useful resource. Have you ever tried that?
I haven't tried that. I haven't had access really to elementary school books. I know when I got to the intermediate level, a friend sent me some preparatory materials for the junior cert and the leaving cert for the Irish tests, and I used those and found those quite helpful. So I could see, if you could get a hold of certainly primary materials, that they would be incredibly useful.
Yeah, interesting, yeah. So we'll jump on. Did you have anything more to say about reading, Audrey?
Not that I can think of, no. Just don't be afraid of it.
Cool. And then number 5 is to just blog it. So this is really starting to express yourself in Irish, right?
Exactly. And that is the important part about it, is you want to express yourself in Irish, not in translation from English. And so if you're a beginner, that's going to mean maybe single words, maybe very simple sentences. Maybe, I say the me Tarzan, you Jane thing. It may be, you're not going to work. Or here in the United States, we would call it the Dick and Jane thing, based on the simple primers that most of us grew up with. You're using very simple sentences. You might write, for example, I get up, I get dressed, I go to work, or I go to school, or, I eat my breakfast. What you want to avoid is trying to have all these sophisticated sentences in English you want to write that you don't have the Irish for.
Audrey, this sounds like a Rebecca Black song.
Oh, really?
Oh, sorry.
But yeah, and you don't need to make it public. You can have a private blog, or you can keep a physical journal. If you're like me, I actually prefer writing by hand to writing on the computer. But just, write a little, if you've had a lesson this week, if you've done a bite-sized lesson, you've done something in class, or you've done something from a book, use it, but make it personal. Instead of saying, Joey got up, right, I got up. Instead of saying Jane ate breakfast, I ate breakfast. If you've been practicing food, for example, you could say what you had for breakfast. I ate an egg. I ate porridge. I drank tea. Or you could use present tense if you don't have the past tense yet. But one of the reasons this is so important is, and again, as you get into higher levels where you're actually speaking and having conversations, is you will always hit conversational dams. And those dams almost always occur where you're trying to translate something from your native language that's too sophisticated for you to express in the same way. And if you are used to falling back on simpler ways of expressing yourself, then that helps you get around those conversational dams much more easily.
Right. And how often would you do this?
If you could do it every day, it would be good. But if at first, when you're just learning, maybe you don't have enough language to do it every day. So maybe once a week. Or when you learn something new, maybe you've just done a unit on going to the doctor. And it doesn't have to be real. You can make it up. But apply it to yourself and see how much of that you can write out or type out, or however you want to keep your blog. And then go back and read it. You can get 2 for the price of 1 that way. Go back and read it out loud.
Going back a few podcast episodes, we had Professor Kevin Scannell on, and he's done, a bit of software development and research. He's worked with Twitter, and he's a big proponent of using Twitter, if you're into that, to just follow people in your language, like in Irish, your target language. Mm-hmm. And I guess to work your advice into this, would be to be an active participant in this. So what he said about Twitter, it is nice because everybody assumes it's going to be short anyway.
Right.
So you could say something like, "Chuig me siúlóid, I went for a walk," and that's enough for Twitter.
Exactly.
So if you're making it public, yeah.
And it also encourages you, because if people then respond to you or follow you back, then, hey, I said something and they got it. You know, they understood it. So I'm communicating.
Yeah, excellent.
The other, of course, extension of that you and I are both very familiar with is internet forums. You can do that as well on internet forums that are dedicated to the language, you know, where you try out your Kupplefuckle. And most people are generally very supportive, and, you know, they like to see you writing in Irish, and they'll, you know, give you a pat on the back and maybe some help. It's good practice.
Excellent. And Audrey, people can find you, am I right, on the Irish Learners Forum?
That's right. I'm Red Wolf on the Irish Learners Forum.
Yeah.
Also on Facebook.
Also on Facebook. So I suggest to people, and we often do for people who email into us, to head on over to irishlearnersforum.com. I think that domain works. And you can pop in and say hello. And Red Wolf, Audrey is there.
Say Red Wolf sent you.
Red Wolf sent you. And you can hear that Audrey is very understanding and kind. And don't be afraid to say hi on the forum. So just to go back over the 5 ways to practice a little Irish during your day was to use labels everywhere, to sing a song, to listen to the radio, mostly passive, I guess, but to do some active listening, to read something, and don't be afraid to start, even if you feel like you're just a beginner in Irish. You can start, and just blog it or just journal it or whatever it is. Write down words, maybe expressions, and then as you can build up into it, write simple sentences that you've learned and come back to it, I guess, every week. Hopefully you can build up on that. So Audrey, this has been advice gold for people, I think, because I'm hearing tips here that I'm finding very useful. I've written them down beside me and I'm going to use them in my language learning for Slovenian.
How's that going?
Oh, it's slow. Like, it's tough. Like, and here's me saying it's tough, you know? So,
you know, language learning is, but it's also fun. That's the ticket. You just take it and have fun with it.
I definitely like putting on the radio quite often. So this is for me the Slovenian radio where Sasha's from. And I like to listen to that. And we have, for little baby Liam, we've got little books in Slovenian. So like you were suggesting, Audrey, and there's like literally a page with a big picture and like a 3-word sentence. And I read that, and some of them I do understand, some of them I don't. So I do have to go back and check with a dictionary or just ask Sasha what those mean. But it's great reinforcement as well when I do understand it, because I can understand part of the story, what's happening. And it is a good motivator.
Yeah, it is. I mean, one book I can think of right off the top of my head is by Siobhan Grogan, is Kentame. What time is it? A children's book where you follow a child throughout her day, and you learn the time, how to express time with a little clock and everything, but you also learn, you know, simple day-to-day things that people do.
Oh, excellent. We'll link you up to that. So, Audrey, I hope that we can have you on the podcast again.
Ah, sure.
It was very, very nice having you. So, gurumi mila mahagut.
Hagadena shamoidich. The falsero.
Agus, jerhai le gachtene dum haule Santa Cruz. Agus, the sulgum gulsha victogan kaboge.
Gaeltacht Santa Cruz, yeah. Shimwujna.
Gaeltacht Santa Cruz. Well, fair play to you, and you do stuff in California, like meet up for the Gerda Schachtena in San Francisco every autumn, every fall.
It's usually either the last week in September or the first week in October. And we also have a conversation group in the Bay Area that meets about once a month for more advanced speakers. So.
And just in case somebody was interested, how would they find out about that?
If somebody wanted to drop me an email, would be fine. Would be perfectly fine. That's Audrey_Nicol@yahoo.com. And I could put you in touch with the people that organize it. The conversation group is more for people who are, you know, more advanced speakers nearing fluency or fluent. But, you know, as far as the Ger Shacht and the Gaeltacht goes, you know, I can put people in touch also with lessons in the Bay Area and such. So.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a lot going on, so fair play to you. So Audrey, Gurmila Mahagut once again. So to finish up, I'll just say to leave a comment for this episode, you can go to bitesizeirishgaelic.com/podcast and go to episode 12. And all you have to do is leave a comment at the end of that page. It's a blog post, and Audrey and I can get back to you there. And if you're loving the show, please do leave a written 5-star review on iTunes for Bite Size Irish Gaelic Podcast. You can email me, Owen, directly as well about the podcast with any feedback or ideas or suggestions. And the email address is podcast@bitesizeirishgaelic.com. Thanks to Tsukumo in Japan for their music, which you hear on this episode under a Creative Commons license. And until the next episode, Slán go fóill. Bye for now.